going to test this mic as well, see if this works for me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Consistently?
Yes.
Is that better? Okay, great. Wonderful. So, is this the right angle for you? All right, good. Just checking. Anyways, thank you, Suzanne. Thank you, Tara. Thank you all for being here as well as we kick this process off. To my Spanish-speaking friends, muchas gracias. To my Mandarin speakers, xie. To my any Korean speakers in the house? Any Thai speakers? Anyone who speaks sign language? All I want to say is on behalf of everyone from the team, thank you for being at the start of this process, because this is how we all are going to collectively develop and plan the future of Fremont. So part of this, as we get into the process, you saw the agenda as well. I promise I'll be done by about 4 o'clock today. I'm kidding, we'll be done earlier. But I want to start by talking of being world class, right? And what that really means specifically for the city of Fremont, for community services, for parks, for recreation, for all that every one of you does as well, right? How many of you here also live in Fremont? Okay, large number of you, great. So how many of you would say you work in a world-class place? Raise your hand. You work with world-class people? Now more hands, that's good. That's good, right? And look, you know, it's hard when you're in a system to feel and appreciate all the good you have. You always see the things that don't work, right? And believe me, I work for Disney. There's things that don't work for Disney either, but you wouldn't know because it's all magical. But as an outsider, somebody who sees things all over the country, all over the world, you've got a great thing going. I mean, I have family that lives here. They go to Central Park every week, if not more often. They rave about it. They would never leave Fremont for anything. And it's not just people that live here that feel that way. You've got surveys that talk about how, even in the county, you are the least stressed city possible. That's pretty good. You got to give yourself a round of applause for that. Come on, people. Good job for that. But the thing is, but as we plan towards this, it's not just living at, talking being the least stressed place. It's also, how do we continue growing and building and developing on that as well? And so before I get into that, I want to ask a question of you. For any of you, what does world-class mean? If you say we want to make Fremont a world-class city, or if you think we are a world-class community services department, what does world-class mean to you? Any of you?
Best of the best.
Best of the best? Who was that? Well said. Okay. Yes.
Innovating.
Innovating?
Yeah.
Okay. Who else? Diverse? Okay. And is this aspirational, or do you feel you're diverse enough already? So you think that's a component of being world class? Yeah? Okay, great. What else? Lots of options? Variety? Okay.
People want to be here.
People want to be here. Yes, absolutely. What else?
A catalyst for other cities.
I like that. Tell me more. What do you mean?
Well, the front runner.
Okay.
That other cities are looking and say, oh, they know what they're doing. So being a catalyst with that, at the top of the class, but you are inspiration. An inspiration to other cities.
I love it.
They
I love it.
keep that up.
Okay, great. So a catalyst, you're an inspiration. So in some ways, we don't want to just be copying other cities' best practices. We want to create our own next practices. Is that a good way to say it?
That's right.
Right on. What else?
The willingness and the desire to improve.
Oh, man after my own heart. That's wonderful. A willingness and a desire to continuously improve, right? Never stop improving. Right on. What's your name, sir?
Andrew.
Andrew? What else? How many? Yes. All inclusive in what way? For everybody, okay? So equitable offerings and inclusive, something for everybody? Okay, wonderful. What else? Okay. Yes, sir.
We're in the center of so many great things to do around us.
Are you saying you are or you want to be?
We're in a short drive.
Yes.
Many things.
Yes, yes.
Sustainable.
Sustainable? Environmentally and fiscally, both, right? Absolutely. Yes. How many of you have seen TED Talks or know of TED? Heard of it? Seen a talk once in a while? There's a guy called Simon Sinek. He's probably got 2 of the 3 or 4 most watched TED Talks ever. And he talks about in a 2-minute clip about what makes a company or an agency world class, which aligns with a lot of what you said, and especially Andrew, you'll see, it feels like you and Simon were on the same page, man. Well said. So take a look.
The choice to be world class is not an event. It's an ongoing practice. There's no day upon which we will say, have we achieved world class? It's just not the way it works. World class organizations see themselves on a journey, and that journey is to be better versions of themselves today than they were yesterday. The amazing thing about world class companies is that they don't see the outside world and other companies as their competition. They see themselves as their competition, and that's why they frustrate their competition. Because they're not trying to be better here or better there. They're not trying to outdo someone with this little detail or outdo someone on that little detail. They look at themselves critically every single day and say, what can we do tomorrow to be a better version of our own company? Where can we improve? It doesn't matter how far ahead we already are. It doesn't matter how far behind we are. What can we do to be a better version of ourselves? Those are the world-class companies, because they are the greatest competition that they have, because their standards are higher than anybody else's. And what's more, it's a never-ending journey, because you will never reach perfection. Will you get ahead of your competition? Sure. Will it last? Not forever. Sometimes you're ahead, sometimes you're behind. The journey to be better than yourself is a never-ending, ongoing journey, and world-class organizations are on that journey. It's not an event, it's a journey. For world class to actually begin, the leaders have to trust their people to know how to deliver on world class. The responsibility of leadership is to train the people to know how to do their jobs and then trust them to do their jobs. And that's how you get world class. We want to catch people doing things right. What most companies do is we catch people doing things wrong. We catch people doing something wrong and we admonish them. Or we can catch people doing things right and say, thank you, good job. In fact, if we set our sights on catching people to do what's right, then everybody knows what right looks like. If all we do is spend our time catching people doing what's wrong, then the only thing people know what to do is not that, and they spend their whole time trying to avoid doing things. We want to promote something positive, not negative. World-class organizations catch people doing things right, they recognize right, they reward right, and they incentivize right.
What do you think? How many agreed with what he was saying? Yes? Oh, wow. So what resonated? If there's one thing you took away from this 2-minute video, for any of you, what was the one thing that stood out in your mind?
Acknowledging what you're doing right and encouraging you to continue doing that.
How many?
Also doing wrong.
Yes, so what she said was, your name, ma'am? Deborah. So what Ms. Deborah said was how we often focus on admonishing people when they do something wrong versus recognizing, rewarding them when they do something right. And if we can spend more time recognizing right and rewarding right. How many agree with that? Great, wow. What else resonated with you? Yes?
There's always room for improvement.
Touché, right.
And if you're doing something well, that doesn't mean you can't change it to do it better.
Yeah. Especially, this is very relevant here. 10, 12 years ago, how many of you had a smartphone? How many have one now? How many remember the BlackBerry? The Palm Trio? Does anybody know in 2006 which was the #1 selling phone in the world? Bingo, who said that? The Motorola Razr, which is, by the way, making a comeback right now. I don't know if you saw that. It's crazy. But if you think about it, even in terms of things going well, what was your name, my friend? David. From what David said, in 2006, we all had a phone. We all had computers. and we all had an iPod. And Steve Jobs said, you need them all in one. And life's never been the same again. So just because you have a lot of great things going, to David's point, it doesn't mean it's good enough. And sometimes to get better, we have to also stop doing things the way we've always done it in order to do something we've never done before. Because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, right? So what else resonated with you from the video?
That you're not in competition with others, you're in competition with yourself.
See, I love that a lot. You know, what Juan said as well with, at the end of the day, our biggest competition is our own self, right? And we recognize, especially in community services, it's tricky because unlike, let's say, police, fire, public works, I can't say I don't like Fremont PD, I'm going to go to Dublin PD. That doesn't work. But with community service, with parks, with programs, people have a choice, right? They can go to a neighboring agency, a private provider, or they can go and sit at home and play video games or watch Netflix. So we compete, but at the same time, our biggest competition has to be ourselves, because the only goal has got to be, how do we, as Andrew said earlier too, how do we keep getting better than what we were yesterday, but not as good as we are tomorrow, right? And that's really the key. What else? To me, this one last line, and I'm going to leave it with this as we start the process, is becoming world class is not a destination, it's a journey. And this plan is a beginning of that journey that we will start, but by no means is the end of the plan the end of the journey. It is an ongoing process, and what this is going to do is exactly like Tara said, set the roadmap, set the framework, and create a living document that allows you to manage forward using the will of the people and using your input to help shape the vision, the values, and the priorities. Right? I don't want a consultant coming to my town telling me what's good for my city. We're not here to do that for you. Our goal with John, with Atisha, who's another team member from WRT as well, and our team is to listen to you, listen to the community's values, look at trends, things that are happening around the country, and help you prioritize that in an action plan that you can implement. This is not our plan, this is your plan, and this plan will only be as good as you all make it by engaging, by sharing your input, and by being involved as much as you can. And I promise we will provide every opportunity, not once, but throughout the process, for as many people here and in the community to share their input and the feedback as well. So, with that, a few quick things about the plan. You may want to probably read on the screens on the side as well. But just the overall outcomes that we spoke about for this plan as well as a high level is we want to begin, like I said, by maximizing engagement. The goal is to ensure that our diverse community, what makes diversity a part of being world class here as well, is ensuring that they all see and be heard in the process in, as a number of you said, an innovative and inclusive way. We want to ensure that CAPRA, how many of you know what CAPRA is? A few of you, great. So it stands for the Commission, the Council for Accreditation of Park and Recreation Agencies. It's under the umbrella of the National Recreation Park Association. And there's a series of 152 standards that park and rec agencies have to meet in order to be nationally accredited. There are 12,000, roughly 12,000 community services or parks and rec agencies in the country. Does anybody know how many nationally are accredited currently? 5. You got no faith in humanity.
300?
Oh, 300. 500, no? 300? Go on. 27? 127? Close, getting warm. How much? 150? Warmer? I feel like I'm playing the prices right. Keep going.
175.
Very close. It's between 172 to 175, so you're right on, Kim. In the country, does anybody know how many in California?
3?
In all of California, 4. And right now, yeah, I mean, so it's definitely an area to grow. And so the goal is this master plan is one of the key requirements. So the goal is ensuring as well through this planning process is helping get you to a level where you can also be nationally accredited. Working on a 10-minute walk, access, a number of you mentioned accessibility as well, is how do we ensure access to our offerings without people having to get into a car? Trust for Public Land, the Urban Land Institute, and the National Recreation and Park Association are working on this joint initiative that multiple mayors have signed up on, is to ensure that 100% of your community has access to a park within a 10-minute walk. And we've seen enough around the country, enough studies shown as well, that access to a park has all sorts of not just physical, but also mental and emotional benefits as well. Not to mention increase in property values, economic impact, all the rest of that. So that's a key component of what from Tara mentioned too. As we assess the sites, look at the level of service and ensure, do you have adequate access? If not, how can we help provide for that as well, right? Ms. Deborah mentioned, and we spoke about this as well, is not just best practices, but next practices. I feel like you were seeing my slides already. And then really the goal is with all of this is to make this a living, breathing document, right? How many of you remember or worked through during the last recession? Okay, so we did a lot of plans as well. You all know how it was. The plans we did in 2007, 8, and 9 weren't worth the piece of paper they were printed on in 2010 because most of the recommendations weren't financially feasible anymore. So the goal really is with any plan, trends change, Fremont is growing, it's diversifying, there are new things happening, new technologies, is to ensure that we have a living document that allows you to continue evolving and adapting as trends, community, demographics, economy, all the rest changes as well, right? So, as a part of that, I want to give a brief intro of myself and pros. I'll have John and Atisha introduce themselves and their team as well. We'll talk through a few projects and give you some very quick snapshots of the key pieces of the project that we would love for you all to be involved in. I'll open it up for questions. We'll have a quick video and we'll wrap up after that. Right? So, pros were based in Indianapolis, but we work coast to coast, border to border, 45 states, 7 countries, and I'm lobbying super hard for a project in Hawaii. Until that happens, I absolutely love coming to the Bay Area. And it's been -2 degrees in Indiana. It snowed over Thanksgiving. So it's really not hard for me to come here right now and enjoy this as well. Even though I know for you all, this feels like winter and it's raining, it's miserable. No, it's great. Come to Indiana, you'll realize. But at the same time, like I said, we worked in the Bay Area a lot. So for the last 9 or 10 years, we've worked in multiple capacities with the city of San Jose. I'm kicking off the city of Gilroy, worked with Pleasant Hill, Walnut Creek, Santa Clara County. So we're in the area a lot. I recognize, again, things that are unique to the Bay Area, things that are unique to Fremont. But at the same time, we also worked in Miami-Dade, in Rockville, Maryland, in Durango, Colorado, in Virginia Beach, in Indianapolis. And so we can bring the best of both worlds, a local understanding and what's relevant, specific to California, and then an understanding of what's happening around the country that might be relevant for us that we can bring here as well. So just my background, as Tara mentioned, worked in a few places. Also served for 6 years on the board of the National Recreation and Park Association, which is where not only are we helping create best practices, but also helping shape policies that are impacting parks and recreation all over the place. This top left, by the way, is at Beijing Sport University in China, when I had a certain Suzanne Wolf also co-present with me internationally as an expert on parks and recreation planning. So, WRT, I'd love for John to introduce themselves and talk of the work they do as well.
Greetings. Should I talk into your jacket or I'll just project?
Use the mic or project. Yeah.
And Atisha should just come on up. I'll see if I can make this work.
It's on.
It's on.
All right, we'll see if I can make this work this way. I'm John Gibbs, a principal at WRT. We're a national practice of landscape architects, planners, urban designers. We work in the scales of cities and the scales of trails, of parks, and of open space. Our work is very much rooted in the communities that we serve. We believe strongly in the ecological basis of the work that we do in those cities and in those parks and those open spaces. My colleague Atisha is here as well, and she's going to be quite an active part of this project. Just come all the way up here.
Hello.
It's all friendly crowd here. This is the biggest kickoff meeting I've ever been involved in for one of these projects, and I think kudos to Neelay, but just to the whole department for recognizing the journey that you guys are about to embark on. The last thing that we would want to do is create this plan that's just handed to you, and it goes on a nice shiny binder, and it sits there on the shelf, and it gets forgotten. But the fact that you guys are here as witness at the inauguration of this process means that you're going to be invested in this. You're going to contribute to it. We're going to learn as much from you guys as we will from your parks, as we will from community members that we're going to engage along the way. We have done a lot of work with pros, finishing up the Hayward Area Recreation District system plan, ongoing parks and trails throughout Alameda County. As I said, we're based here in San Francisco, and we have a nice reach. We just finished up the City of Austin's Parks and Recreation plan with pros as well. Some of the things that we're going to be doing as part of this project, we're going to be out in your parks and getting to know your parks through you, but also just walking around and looking at various conditions, looking at how the parks are functioning, and then really spending a lot of time with residents to understand their perspective on the parks. What do they see, and what do they really value, so that this plan can help prioritize your time, your investments, your work to support the parks. You want to just add anything? I'm not sure if that's working.
No, it is working.
Okay.
I could hear it at the back. I'm very, very excited. I am also a resident of this region, like just Santa Clara, so I always come to your parks, Elizabeth Lake and Quarry Lakes. These are my favorite biking trails every other weekend, so definitely a very, very personal project to me. I have, as you can say, most of my friends and family live in Fremont, so they are excited to they were like, I sent a text out like, I'm going at the Parks Master Plan Kickoff. This is like, oh, is that a public meeting? Like, that was their first question. Can we all come? I'm like, no, I'll let you know about the engagement plans. So.
Are they here? Maybe they're here.
Yeah, they were like, this is a public meeting. I'm like, no, but coming here, I was like, this looks like a public meeting. So really excited, and I think one thing I'm personally excited about, how the suburbs are transforming, and how the lifestyle in suburbs are transforming, and how these parks and open spaces and the civic infrastructure plays this really critical place in like creating that identity. Like Fremont is like, when you think of Fremont, you think of hills, you think of mission, and you think of parks. So like in this, like for this project to create that identity for the rest of the Bay Area and the rest of the region, parks is going to play a very important role, and also bringing the community together. Like, how do we take people away from their phones, away from their cars, away from their Teslas, and like bring them together in these parks?
Well said. Well said.
Well said.
Thank you. We look forward to working with each of you.
Thank you. Good, back on again. And so along with this, on the theme of public input, here's the challenge to some degree, right? And we've all been in those meetings where usually either people who have time or have a certain special interest they really want to advocate for show up. But it may or may not really represent the entire community. So what we always ensure is, along with all the other public meetings that we do, is to have an independent scientific process with a company called EDC Institute. So I'll go into more depth with them as well a little later, but they will help ensure objectivity in the planning process and help ensure that the entire community's priorities are reflected in a way that you can use that to make decisions or to be able to say no if certain things come up that may not be a true community priority. Right? So quick outline just of some of our work as well. These are the places, as I said, we worked in just in California in the last 5 years alone. It's really rough going to San Diego, coming here to LA in the winter in Indiana. So I volunteered to leave Indiana and come here. But these are also some agencies that are nationally accredited and or gold medal that we'd love to have help Fremont through this planning process be a part of as well. So again, there's a lot of great agencies, a lot of great things to learn from as well, and we will along the process. Part of our experience, we worked with about 40% of all nationally accredited agencies in the last 10 years, and 75% of all of those in California, which, if you can do the math, is 3 agencies. But 75% sounds so much cooler than 3 agencies does. So, and half of all gold medal agencies nationally as well. So we've been very, very fortunate. And as John said, WRT and us, we worked on so many projects together. So we want this to be an interchangeable team. I'm a little further away than he is, but we're gonna be here a lot, and through this process and working with you, help develop the future, right? So the process on a very, very high level, I look at this, and I'd love for you all to, if nothing else, take away this one thing today from the entire meeting, because we want you all to be our ambassadors, to advocate for the plan, and if people question what this is about, to share with them just this one snapshot, that any comprehensive strategic master planning process is really simplistically put down into these 3 major steps. We're going to look at first, where are we today? You all and the community is going to tell us, where do you want to go? And then third, working with the staff and our team, we will help establish a roadmap that says, how do we get there in the next several years, right? So the situational analysis of where we are currently, that's where a lot of the park assessment, the facility, trails, program assessment work will come in. Getting a sense of level of service, the equity mapping, to see gaps and overlaps in the community. Your future demographics, all the community input, the future trends, all of that will give us a sense of where do we want to go. And lastly, that's where the capital improvement plan, the priority rankings, the actual strategic plan, all the rest will come in to say, now how do we get there? So, 3 steps, can anybody tell me?
Today?
Where are we today?
Where do we want to get to?
Where do you want to go, get
How
to?
we get there.
How do we get there? Right on. Thank you. And so, very quickly, I actually ran your demographics and trends to give you a very quick snapshot of what Fremont might look like in the next few years as well. And keep in mind, this is based off the 2010 census as we projects out. So in any place in the country, this is the single worst time to do any demographic projections because they are probably the most inaccurate, especially in a place that's growing and diversifying the way you are, right? So take it with that sort of grain of salt, but we continue to grow in terms of population numbers, projected to be significantly more than 250,000 in the next few years as well. More interestingly, our population is starting to age just a little bit. If you see the top right, the blue and the red, that's the 55 plus population, and I refuse to call them seniors because they don't behave like it, it's active adults. But that's where we see 1 out of 3 people in the next 10 to 12 years will be in that age group. At the same time though, we're still going to have close to 40% under the age of 35. Still young families and kids. So a lot of emphasis on walkability, access, but also multi-generational spaces, programming, etc. is going to be really important based on the way Fremont is changing. At the same time, significantly diversifying as well from a race standpoint as well. And I mean, you clearly know this, you've seen this as well. And I often joke about this, but there is a lot of truth to it. They've done enough studies to show how different race and ethnic groups have different participation trends. And you want to be mindful of that as well as we look at what could we possibly create, whether it's cricket, whether it's badminton, ping pong, tai chi, yoga, soccer, etc., or it might be totally some other activity, but things that reflect your diverse community and not just a one-size-fits-all approach. Then from an income standpoint, we are significantly higher. What's blue is per capita, which is every individual. What's orange is all the people living under the same roof over the age of 16. So yes, by California, by national standards, we're much higher from an income standpoint, but it also means people have more expectations and a higher level of quality that they desire, and that's what we want to look at delivering as well. A couple of quick things on local trends. The red line shows the national average of 100. So basketball, baseball, tennis, soccer, all the sports in general are significantly higher than national averages here and continue to be so as well. At the same time, this is an incredibly fitness conscious community. Every single, I may have seen maybe 1 or 2 agencies like this where every single metric here that is tracked is higher than national average for all sorts of fitness exercises or activities in general. And an outdoor activity as well, again, this isn't just people doing this in Fremont. This is people from Fremont engaging in this wherever they may be going as well. That's where hiking, biking, just like Atisha mentioned as well earlier, backpacking, all of those elements are things people enjoy and participate in that a lot as well. So this is what I mentioned, the 10-minute walk campaign. Right now, only 2 out of 3 people in Fremont have access to a park within 10 minutes. So our goal is to look at within the next 10 years, how do we move ourselves closer and closer to the 100% mark to ensure everybody has true access to a park within a walking distance. So 2 big pieces I want to just share very quickly with you in terms of outreach. This is going to be our philosophy for the entire planning process, is we don't expect people to only come to us when we have a meeting and an evening in one place at a point in time. We're going to go where people are, whether it's to you all, whether it's to the community, whether it's physical or it's digital as well. And we've got some super cool things that we've not done anywhere in California before that we're going to do for the first time here. So this is some of the things that Atisha and the team will help us with in terms of multiple engagement tools and having a toolkit in a box. But some key areas, everything from ensuring social media to streaming on Facebook Live, having multilingual outreach as well. This is what I did in San Clemente, where we actually went to a park across from a school with kids and had kids draw what they'd like or put stickers. And it was amazing to watch how many kids came out and shared all the things that they would never come to a public meeting and share, but here they couldn't give us enough information at the meeting itself. Again, having people also talk of where they want you to spend the money, so being able to prioritize that as well. Talking of the ideal parks, if you could design a park from scratch, what would people love to see in that park as well? Are things we'll have people share. Branding a project, that's going to be a really important piece to develop what the project branding looks like, because that's then going to lead to also live polling. So we're going to have clickers that all of you can have. Have any of you used that before in meetings? Right? So it's pretty easy, it's super cool, and you're able to actually see the results in real time. Plus it ensures that instead of the 2, 3, 4 people that are always much more vocal, everybody gets a chance to participate in the process. And design a multilingual, ADA accessible website as well. So anybody, and mobile friendly, so anybody, anytime, whether you come to a meeting or not, is able to not only know what's happening, but also share their feedback, take the online surveys, engage with social media, because we all know there's 2 people in every community that are going to show up at the last council meeting. And they're going to tell you that they never knew about this, nobody asked them, which is why the whole plan is flawed, right? Versus now, given this access in people's hands, if they chose not to participate, then really shame on them, they chose not to engage. We want to ensure everybody gets a chance to engage, not only to the website, but also the first time in California, an app called Happy Feed that's going to be custom designed for Fremont that allows people to share your feedback through pictures, videos, or text anywhere from any park as well in real time. That won't just go on social media, but it'll actually be captured by us and dropped in here as well. So park maintenance, how many park maintenance staff here? Okay. Wow. How many of you all hear about people walking about on the street, someone comes up and complains to you and says, fix this? All the time? Someone calls someone in the office, you get the call again? How much easier would it be if you could actually have all this, not publicly, not on Facebook, but in an email or in a dashboard organized where you can actually see what people not only want to improve, but also what people love, right? We never hear from those, even though 99 out of 100 people actually love it. You hear from the one person who complains, and somehow that becomes a reality, and all you all are doing is being defensive and fixing things. This is a great way to actually have people share what they enjoy, what they like in the park, what they want to improve as well, and allow you to be able to then share those stories in a way that, pun intended, but makes people happy. So that's the part of these that we're going to do with this as well. And then the key piece and the single most important tool is a statistically valid survey that I mentioned. This is where everything from a referendum, how would people vote in an election if, for a bond referendum, if you were to put all the things they want on the ballot? Are they likely to support? Very likely, not sure, or against. And this will be done through EDC Institute in an independent way, mailed through people with a phone call and a single-use link to people in Fremont in up to 5 different languages, or the option for them to call in on a call center and take it in multiple languages. So we want to be truly inclusive, that this is not just to people who are only English speakers or primarily English speakers, but everybody who wants to and gets this will participate. So really a combination of the website, the app, the public meetings, your input, and then this survey are all the things we're going to do in the next 5 to 6 months to get everybody's information. And so I really need your help to get the word out, to participate yourself, your friends, your family, people you know, because the more people that participate, the more reflective the plan will be of the entire community. Are you good with helping with that? Okay, look people, I have a 2-year-old daughter who maybe sleeps 3 hours a night at a stretch. I have a 6-year-old son who's going on 16. I woke up at 3 o'clock Eastern time today, which is midnight your time, to catch a flight to come here, which is delayed, and then in the rain and now here. I feel like I should have lunch, but it's almost 5 o'clock my time, so I don't know what to eat. All I'm saying is, if this is the energy in the room,
Yes.
it's going to be a long afternoon. So, are you ready to help me with this?
Yes.
Thank you, people. That's better. So, few questions: how people learn about it, how they want us to spend the money. All these are kinds of things we'd love to ask to give you information to help make this plan more useful for you in your day-to-day jobs as well, and to be able to make better decisions. Cost recovery is a big part of it. You're going to talk of financial sustainability, as I mentioned, along with environmental. This is where looking at how we offer things, what should we be subsidizing, and what needs to cover their cost are things we'll be talking about. Because nationally what we're seeing is more focus on revenue generation, not making money or making profit, but generating enough revenue so we can afford to maintain what we have. Right? Part of the challenge always been in the last decade, Parks and Rec and libraries have had the most budget cut. So you all have had more staffing cuts while you've added more parks, more people, and more programs. How many of you feel like you've done more and more with less and less? Okay. How many feel like, no, we're overstaffed, cut some more staff? Okay, good. I figured that wouldn't be the case. But the idea is to help this, to create a philosophy where those who benefit pay for it. So you shouldn't be subsidizing my private golf lesson, but a community-wide special event, trails, things that benefit everybody, are where we need to spend the most money to help subsidize those. Those are pieces we'll look at internally, working with WRT as well and GIS-based mapping to show gaps and overlaps as well for different amenities, so you can see that this is where we may have one too many picnic shelters and pavilions, but here's where there's a gap, and that's where we need to add more of this. Now this helps you take away the personality-based decision-making out of it. This isn't now Suzanne or Neelay wanting a tennis court in my backyard. This is a map showing you that there's a gap in this area where we need to add more of these. Or, as trends are increasing, we're seeing more and more about pickleball. If you have multiple tennis courts in a certain place, can some of them be repositioned to pickleball or something else? This is the kind of tool that will really help make those decisions easier, and more than anything else, more transparent. Signature facilities, looking at our central park, looking at larger amenities to be able to say, what can make this a destination? What are the 2, 3, 5 big ticket visionary items that we can look at to say, this is the Fremont brand that Atisha spoke about as well. So there's things we will fix, there's things we will improve, and then there's things we want to build a legacy and a destination around that allow more people to either live, work, play, or visit in Fremont as well, right? And so the outcomes we're working towards is really this. More than anything else, we want to have this process be guided by your values, what you believe in, how you act, your vision, which is again, what is it that you want to become or achieve, and the mission, which is what are we going to do every single day to help us get there, right? If the vision is being world class, what are things we need to develop along the way? The values of inclusion, of access, of continuous improvement, the things so many of you spoke about, to help us get to that point. Using data to help with prioritize investment so we can provide recommendation in the plan to the budget office, to the council, to say this is what the community wants and needs, and these are where the highest priorities are. Not just, again, a certain group that may come up and advocate more, but truly a community-wide priority. Understanding, especially again back to the park maintenance side, because this is a really big piece of our whole project, is from a capital and life cycle replacement standpoint, to better able to track what do we have, how old is it, what needs to be fixed now, which is critical, what needs to be fixed on an ongoing basis that's sustainable, and what's the bigger picture in the long term that's visionary, so you have the tools to be able to do your job the best way you possibly can. Because at the end of the day, that more often than not is somebody's first interaction with the whole system. If your park is clean, it's well maintained, people feel safe, they'll come back. So you all, especially maintaining the parks and looking at that, play such a huge role in ensuring that the community feels this is a place I want to be in. And so this is going to help find ways to help make it easier and be able to identify and rationalize funding and prioritize that for all of you as well. Just again, some prioritization exercises, but tying it all to money. You know, everyone wants everything. Our wants are much more than often the resources end up being. So how do we balance that as well is what we do with you. And then tying it all back into an action plan matrix. So these are examples of cities we've done, and we'll eventually create a living, breathing document for Fremont in about this entire process going to about 15 to 16 months. So we're thinking of this as a kickoff. Early next year in February or March, we'll start the community engagement process once people are back from the break. We'll go through the statistically valid survey, the online survey, all of that in the first 2 quarters. And the goal is by the end of next year and early the following year to get all this input, get into a visioning exercise, come back to the community, get your feedback and get a sense of are we on the right track. Once we have that, then the draft plan, all the approval processes to get to an adopted or accepted document by the council, which then allows you to start implementing. So really we're starting it now, but we'll end this sometime in early 2021 with a lot of these pieces going on parallel. But at every step, us coming back to you to get your input and getting your feedback to ensure we are on the right track and we're reflecting your vision and your values here as well.